I don't really know why, but I've had a soft spot for the networkers for many years at this point, with my favourites from that family being the Class 465 and Class 466. After finally getting to see examples of both classes in real life, I thought it was time to have a look at how these units are depicted in Train Simulator. The older RSC model was released in April 2013, but I'm not a fan of the unit in her default state, so instead, we'll be focusing on the 465 and 466 enhancement packs made by Armstrong Powerhouse. This is one of numerous ArmStation Land Rover packs that, for whatever reason, is split into two volumes. The first one was released in September 2019, and wasn't followed by the second volume until 2 years later. Each volume costs £15, or around $31.84 NZD at full price. But if you already own Volume 1 before getting Volume 2, or vice versa, the other volume will be discounted to £12, or around $25.47. If you get both volumes at the same time, they cost £27, or around $57.31. Make of those prices what you will. Volume 1 focuses on the Class 465 and Class 466 units from their introduction in 1992 up until 2010, while Volume 2 focuses on the units as they were from 2010 to the early 2020s. Both volumes require two add-ons from Steam in order to function, namely the Southeastern Class 465 and ECML London to Peterborough packs. At full price, the combined cost of those two add-ons is $47.98 NZD, or £22.58. Adding that to the cost of both EP volumes, and the total is now £46.95, or $105.29 NZD. And now for a brief history on the Class 465, of which 147 examples were built by British Rail Engineering Limited, ABB, or Metro Camel between 1991 and 1994. They were intended to replace the old slam-door EMUs that, at the time, were still running suburban services in South London. Case in point, the Class 415 4EPB of 1951. The Networker family was intended to be much bigger than it actually ended up becoming, but several proposed units, such as the Class 171, Class 341 and Class 471 were never built due to the early 1990s recession. Originally, there were three variants of the Class 465, designated as 465-0, 465-1 and 465-2. The first two were built by BREL and ABB, while the third was built by Metro Camel. There are subtle differences between the two fleets, such as air vents above the windows on the BREL/ABB units, which are not present on the Metcam units. Most of the Class 465s are still in service today, following refurbishments in 2005, 2010 to 2012, and again in 2016. However, some of the Metcam units are now in storage, following the arrival of the Class 707 Desiro City units on Southeastern Territory. Indeed, I didn't see any 465-2s while I was in England. As for the Class 466, 43 of these units were built by Metro Camel in 1993 and 1994. Each unit consists of one driving motor and one driving trailer coach, with a small toilet in the latter, and the idea behind their introduction was to have them run with pairs of 465s, thus making a 10-car train. Historically, The 466s could also be seen running solo on the Bromley North, Sheerness-on-Sea and Medway Valley lines. But as of January 2021, they can only run in service if they're coupled to a Class 465 due to their non-compliance with modern PRM legislation. These days, at least 31 Class 466 units are still in service. Looking back at the enhanced 465s in TS Classic, we can see that GU Studios modelled the numerous visual differences between the BREL/ABB and Metro Camel units, of which full details are provided in the manuals. It's interesting to compare an original condition 465-0 with their future self, and to me at least, the most notable change is the addition of anti-climb cowling below the light clusters. As for why I've got these two numbered as 465009, it's because that's another unit that I've seen in real life. For reference, this photograph was taken at London Bridge on the morning of Tuesday the 6th of May. The electric networkers, as in the Class 365, Class 465 and Class 466, are known amongst railfans for their distinctive traction motor sounds, which I'll demonstrate soon. However, in 2009 and 2010, all of the BREL/ABB 465s had their original brush motors replaced with new Hitachi motors, and now they sound a bit like the Class 395 Javelins. Meanwhile, the Metcam 465s and 466s retained their original motors, which I prefer over the sound of the brush or Hitachi motors. Volume 1 of the Enhancement Pack features the brush motors, while Volume 2 features the Hitachi motors, and the GEC motors used on the Metcam units are featured in both volumes. Incidentally, the audio for the brush motors had to be sourced from archive recordings. And now, I'll do some comparisons with real footage of BREL 465182 and Metcam 465908, the latter being the famous Network Southeast heritage unit. I don't know about you, but personally, I think the motor audio in TS is too quiet, even with the motor factor cranked all the way up. As for why ECML London to Peterborough is required for the Class 465 EP, that's because AP ripped the cab interior model from the Class 365, which comes with the ECML route, and used it on the 465 and 466. Granted, the default 465 cab model wasn't all that good. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was reused from the ancient Kuju era Class 166. However, there are numerous detailed differences between the real 365 and 465 cabs, to the point where it brings down the immersion in the 465. For one thing, these units do not have pantograph controls in real life because they're only equipped to run in third rail territory. In 2005, 34 465/2 units were refurbished for outer suburban services and redesignated as Class 465/9. These units now have first-class compartments at each end behind the cab, although it's perhaps the most feeble attempt at first class I've ever come across. Despite that change being made to the real units, AP's depiction of the 465/9 in TS Classic has no alterations to the interior model. As for Armspray Dishwasher's depiction of the Class 466, this looks fine on the surface, and she has much better physics than the default 466, which I remember having ludicrously overpowered physics, not helped by both coaches being powered, instead of one coach being an unpowered trailer. However, AP's is more of an imitation 466, and it doesn't take a genius to see that there's no toilet in the interior model. As indicated by the unchanged data panels on the inner ends of the coaches, AP just took the driving coaches from a 465 and dressed them up to look like a 466. Why they didn't bother adding a toilet to the interior model for the trailer coach is anyone's guess. The two volumes include 3 scenarios each, and all 6 are for the Chatham Main and Medway Valley Lines route. The scenarios focus on passenger services to or from London Victoria, with one exception where you drive an imitation Class 466 down the Medway Valley Line, and another where you drive a 465 coupled to an imitation 466 from Loughborough Junction to Swanley. As for the time periods, these range from 1998 to 2016, with suitable rolling stock for each scenario's respective era, but the total cost of all the DLC requirements is incredibly high, as usual. Some of the requirements are the same across both volumes, and at full price, the total cost of all the DLC required for the 465 EP scenarios is a staggering $672.95 NZD, or £316.72. That includes the base requirements for the Class 66, Electrostar, Desiro, and Class 455 Enhancement Packs, but I left out ECML London to Peterborough because, as I stated earlier, that's already a requirement for the 465 EPs. If you do want to play through the 465 and 466 scenarios, I strongly advise against buying all the requirements at once if you don't have them yet. It's better to spread the purchases out over a long period of time. Oddly enough, one route on which I like to occasionally run the early NSE variants of the 465 and 466 is Dovetail's heavily modified version of the Forum Peninsula, which comes with the otherwise farcical London Transport Heritage Collection DLC. Despite the included motive power in that pack, namely the Class 20, 5700 pannier tank, and 1938 tube stock, all having a London Transport theme, the route itself has Network Southeast decals all over the stations, so, ironically, it's more suitable for units like the Networkers, 4EPB, or Class 456 than the rubbish that comes with the LT Heritage Pack. If you haven't seen my review of the pack yet, and are curious to learn more about why I think it's a bit of a joke, there's a link to the review in the top right corner. As is often the case with Richmond Power Sausage products these days, the 2-volume Class 465 and 466 Enhancement Pack is too expensive for what you get. While the extra details modelled by GU Studios, not to mention the overhauled sounds, are nice touches, the pack is let down by the use of a Class 365 cab model and the aforementioned inaccuracies on the imitation Class 466. I am of the opinion that the Class 465 and Class 466 networkers would have benefited from a whole new model, instead of the developers only touching up the existing, albeit old, RSC model. Despite the issues I have with AP's enhanced 465s, there's still a damn sight better than this thing that comes with Dovetail's Chatham mainline route of 2016. As for where I'd rate AP's Class 465 enhancement packs, I think 6.5 out of 10 is a suitable rating, and I'll end this video with one last clip of a Class 465 in real life.